Welcome back to my channel. Today I want to talk about the Godfather, or the All-Father. And I don't mean Odin of Nordic mythology, or even Zeus of Greek mythology. I want to talk about the All-Father of Celtic mythology, Dagda. The Dagda was the supreme god of the Celts and the king of the Tuatha Dé Danann. He was said to watch over the Celtic tribes like a father figure. Together with Ogma, who is sometimes said to be his brother, and together with Lu, he formed the great trinity of gods of the Tuatha Dé Danann. His name, the Dagda, means the good god, not because he was particularly good to the people, but because he was good in everything he did. He had a lot of skills and talents. And he is also known under a lot of different names, including Oge Olehet, the Great Father, and Daire, the Fertile One. And in Gaul he is known as Sukelos. His real name is a mystery, but the names he is given describe a lot of his attributes. When picturing him, he is described as a giant of a man, always dressed in a woolen hooded cloak, covering up his face. Thanks to his giant stature and his enormous appetite, the clothes were always too tight, and his stomach and butt often stick out. His unshaven face was adorned by a long unruly beard, and all in all, he was a little bit off. But at the same time, he was said to be very good looking, and he was witty and wise beyond compare. He is the All-Father, the keeper of justice, law and order. He is a king, a father and a druid, associated with wisdom, magic, masculinity and also fertility. For, like Zeus, he was a philanderer with a lot of lovers and a lot of children. His lovers included the goddess Danu, the goddess Boin and the goddess Morrigan. And his children include the famous goddess Bridget, as well as gods like Angus, Kermit and Aed, and a lot more. Where the Dagda was best known for his strength and his enormous appetite, his most famous attributes may have been the objects he possessed. There were 3 magical objects in his possessions. First, the Quiver Anshik, the Andrai, a bottomless cauldron big enough for 2 grown men to fit into it, and big enough to feed a whole village with an endless supply of food, and which would leave no one unsatisfied by the food given. This object might have given the Dagda the association with feasts and prosperity. The second object was the Loch Mor, a massive club, so big, so huge that it has to be transported on a cart, and which could only be lifted by the Dagda or 8 grown men. And it was said that the Dagda could kill 9 men with a single stroke of this club. But at the same time, the hilt of the club had the power to restore health and to resurrect people. So this object might have brought the Dagda the association with the power over life and death. But the third, and probably most interesting object, was the Dardabla, or the Withna, a magical golden harp made of the very first oak tree of Ireland and covered in jewels. With this harp, the Dagda had the power of changing seasons or even the weather. He could introduce prophetic sleep, and he could invoke the most strong emotions within beasts, men and gods alike. In fact, the harp was so powerful that it could incite men for war, cure the battle-weary men, and bring joy and sorrow beyond measure. But only in the hands of the Dagda, though. And of course, an object as powerful as this couldn't stay unnoticed by the enemies for long. So after the second battle of Moytura, which was won by the Tuatha Dé Danann, the Fomorians were so impressed with the harp that the Fomorian chief wanted to have it in his possession. The Tuatha Dé Danann, meanwhile, celebrated their victory, ate from the bottomless cauldron of the Dagda, and listened to stories of glorious victories. And as they listened, they were unaware of the Fomorians, who made their way into the camp and stole the magical harp from right beyond their noses. Of course, the Fomorians didn't stay and wait until the theft was noticed. No, they ran for their lives, carrying the harp with them to a nearby abandoned fortress. It wasn't until one of Dagda's men asked to hear some music from Dagda's harp that the theft was noticed, and the Tuatha Dé Danann realized what had happened. The Dagda was furious. What an insult to him! He knew that the thieves wouldn't be able to, handle the magic of the harp. But without a harp, he wouldn't be able to control seasons and weather either, and people would have to suffer. So he asked his men who would come with him to retrieve the harp. And the first ones to stood up and join the Dagda on his mission were Ogma and Luth. As the trio found the camp of the Fomorians after a long walk, they saw the enemies vastly outnumbered them. And Luke and Ogma weren't really sure how they would be able to retrieve the harp and regain possession of it. But the Dagda didn't even flinch. He called out to his harp, and hearing its true master's voice, the harp sprung from where it was hung and flew directly into the hand of the Dagda, and on its way, it killed 7 Fomorians and wounded a lot more. Within seconds, the Fomorians followed the harp and stormed into the direction of the trio. And Ogma and Luth told the Dagda it would be time to play a tune. The Dagda agreed. He started to play a sad melody of grief. And as it came to the ears of the Fomorians, they instantly stopped and started sobbing with their heads in their hands. Even though they were cold people, they couldn't help but feel the pain of the warriors lost in a recent battle, and they were overwhelmed with grief and misery. The tears rolled down their cheeks. But the moment the song ended, they got themselves together again, and were even more furious than before and stormed towards the trio. Again, the Dagda started a little tune, this time a joyful one. A mirthy tune filled the air, and the Fomorians started laughing uncontrollable. Once again, tears rolled down their cheeks, but this time, tears of pure laughter. They laughed so hard that they even dropped their weapons, but the moment the tune stopped, they picked up their weapons again, and again started to charge at the trio. The Dagda, meanwhile, started a third and last song. This time, the tune emerging from the harp was the most gentle and soothing anyone had ever heard. Within seconds, the Fomorians did not just stop their attack, but they also fell into a deep, deep slumber. None of them had the chance to resist the tune. And so, when the trio was sure that everyone was asleep, they just rode home and let them sleep there. Well, and since this day, no one ever dared to steal the harp again, or to even touch it. And that's it. That's the story of the Dagda, the supreme god of the Celts, the god with the power over time and seasons, over life and death, over weather and crops, and so much more. Thank you for listening. And if you liked it, maybe you want to check out some of my other videos. See you next time. Bye!